Hi everyone. I'm just recording this after the episode. So the video, for some reason, stopped recording. So any references made to being able to see me are invalid. They're invalidated and disregard them. And I am the DI in this instance. You'll know what I'm talking about as the episode begins. Anyway, enjoy. Have a good night. This is Stephen from Kelvin HQ. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode. And I didn't mention last week, I'd been gone for a while. The last podcast before last week was about September. So, thanks for waiting, because I just breezed over it and didn't even think about it. So, yeah, I'm back. And this week should be an interesting episode. Could be a confronting episode for some, but let's just get into it. So for those viewing on Spotify and YouTube, I've got a new hat this week. The Bunnings hat, which I think is pretty impressive. One of my friends he will remain nameless, but for the purposes of this podcast, we'll call him DI. He, when we were talking about the next episode, and I mentioned that this week's hat will be better than last week's, he did question it. And now that I'm wearing the Bunnings hat, he must really be thinking long and hard about his decision to question myself. So I'll leave it up to you, though. I will put out a poll, which will be available on Spotify. Do you prefer the bucket hat or do you prefer the Bunnings hat? Hard decision. And the tricky thing coming up for the next few episodes is I don't have many hats left. If you include beanies, I reckon I've got 2. So just be prepared that the hat era might end soon. Anyway, and this hat's really annoying because the brim of the hat it's hitting the seat, and I can't rest my head. It's very annoying. So anyway, so this week's episode, I guess I firstly need to talk about. I'm looking to normalize talking about difficult things and that type of thing, mental health, anxiety, bad things that have happened. So I just wanted to talk about, I guess, my state of mind and more or less all the bad things that have happened to me over the last 2 years. Now, I'm not saying this with any sort of grief porn or like woe is me type of thing. There is a point to why I'm going to be talking about it, which hopefully I can bring home at the end, but we'll just see how we go. So the last 2 years, I guess we'll start with the big one. Obviously my dad's suicide, which will be coming up to 2 years in September. Obviously not a lot needs to be said about how difficult that was. But I think something that I really underrate that's affected me and probably still affects me is about a month after that happened, one of my friends was involved in a murder-suicide. So that really just like rocked me to the core, like unimaginably, really, because, you know, after the first event happened and then just the timing of it all was just very gut-wrenching and kind of like shattered my reality of, you know, life and what to expect with it. And even now I just notice the sort of the tension and the sort of freezing type of feeling that comes up when I think about it. So that's something I will be working on with my psychologist through EMDR therapy. which is basically retraining a memory as learning so that it doesn't actually affect you from a emotional standpoint. I think that's more or less what it is. So that happened. Fast forward. This is in. I won't give like dates or anything. I'll just rattle it off. So then my most successful long-term relationship ended. Then I moved house, started a new role, and those three together, they say that those kind of events are the most stressful that you can go through in your life, and they all sort of happened at the same time for me. So that was that was a lot of pressure and a lot of change all at once, and still sort of, grieving in the process. Then my mum got sick again. So she's had cancer a couple of times, but it returned. That was actually surprisingly really easy to deal with. I think because my mum is such a hero and she's a legend, like she never complains, and she just came in with a great mindset, had the operation and recovered like overnight, it seemed. And she's just an absolute powerhouse of a woman, and she's a great example of pushing through adversity and resilience, and I've definitely learnt and developed a lot of those skills through her. So that happened. Then end of last year I got COVID. Then after COVID I got glandular fever. So both really fatigue-inducing illnesses. And because I'm quite an active person and I don't like to sort of be restrained physically, like COVID and glandular fever were really hard because it was a period, even up until now, of months on end where I'd be fatigued and I wouldn't be able to do the type of physical activity I'd like to do. So that was really hard to adjust to mentally. Eventually I did sort of get to the point where I just accepted the situation and did my best to work around it. Started to play golf and did some more walking and that type of thing. So that just taught me about being able to adjust to your situation and I guess only control what you can control. Then last week I got COVID again, which was just like give me a break type of thing. But at the same time, I actually felt like I really needed the week away from society and from work and just from everything. Because I guess when you go into COVID isolation, it's like you're in a bubble because you can't really do anything, and the pressure of life or doing things and all that type of business didn't exist. So it was like, it was more so delaying the anxiety of how I'm currently feeling about things. But I actually enjoyed the isolation, funnily enough. So that occurred. And then last night I was playing basketball and I injured my heel, which I did it a couple of weeks ago, but I've kind of aggravated it again, which is very frustrating because I don't normally get injured. So again, I only played the first 5 to 10 minutes of the game and then I was out, and now I've got to get looked at and I'm not sure how long a break I'll need to take or that type of thing. But generally, I don't like the feeling of, being restrained or not being able to do something that I want to do, especially in terms of an exercise type of thing. Because for me, I find that my mental state relies heavily on exercise. like a few years ago when I was really into exercising and I was training maybe anywhere from 3 to 5 days a week, I just felt like the pressures of life and the stress and the everyday things, I could bounce back from it a lot quicker because it kind of gave me, exercise kind of gives me a shield. And for anyone that's lived with me, whenever I've come home after exercising, like you can visibly tell how much it affects me in a positive way. Like I get into a mood and I'm just like up and about for a few hours and sometimes even into the next day. So that's why this year's been really, like this year I would say probably the toughest, I would say, of my life so far. I think just because I'm adjusting to living alone, which is enjoyable, but it's still an adjustment. I've been through a lot of change and all the stuff I've mentioned before that's occurred. Like it's a lot to happen, and everyone has their own stuff going on and things that happen to them. So it's all relative, and I'm not comparing to anyone. I'm just talking about my own situation and just trying to, mentally deal with that restraint and just constant and residual fatigue. But it kind of comes back, the point I guess I was trying to make, talking about all this kind of stuff, apart from wanting to normalize it and make it easy to talk about these things, because I just think about now, the very first podcast I did, like how nervous I was and scared to put it out there or even record it. And now that, I'm talking about all these things that have happened, and it's just like, to me, it's soothing in a way to do it and to sort of let people in with how I'm feeling. So, that was the point I wanted to make. So, when I've been seeing my psychologist, we talk about these things that have happened, and I am very good at suppressing my feelings, but also discounting things that have happened. Like I might say things like XYZ has happened to me, but it's okay. Like it's going to be fine, when really, not to say it shouldn't be fine, but it's to be expected that I'm going to struggle and feel overwhelmed and feel like it's too much a lot of the time, because the things I've experienced recently warrant that. And I shouldn't it is good to have an optimistic mindset, and it's definitely something that I've got from my mother, which is a good trait to have, which is basically, it's going to be okay, and like keep on pushing on and just keep moving forward. But I think what I need to realize is it's okay to not to be okay. And at the moment, I'm definitely not okay, I would say. I wouldn't say, but I am. I've been finding things over the past month very challenging. Sorry for the. So we just got Chia coming in here, causing mayhem. So. And she's gone. So see, this is the good thing about just, this is great. This is the great thing about just doing the podcast. Anything can happen. Even during the most serious moments, it's still very funny. Anyway, so I've completely lost my train of thought there. I'll try to recapture it. But yeah, just so it's okay to not be okay. And I was talking about how I've been feeling at the moment. So I'll go to the mental health rating. I'll give it for maybe over the last few weeks. I would say between 2 to 4. And a lot of the I guess the main source of that is my current work situation, which I'll talk about because I think a lot of people have experienced this type of feeling lately. I think I don't know what it is about COVID, but you people are starting to realize what's important. Or I'm just for me with my job, um, it's not my dream job, and it's a job that provides me with what I need to live a certain lifestyle and have the things I need and that sort of thing. But it doesn't provide me with the satisfaction that I really desire. And I think you can get away with that for a certain period of time, which I have for like 7 or 8 years now, where I've enjoyed the flexibility and I've enjoyed the benefits of the positions I've been in. And not to say I've hated the job, but it's just, yep, this is good enough for me. But now that's sort of, I feel like I've been worn down over time because I don't have that deep desire or passion for what I'm doing. So it sort of leaves me in that position where, because I'm not aligned with, that, this is what I love doing. It creates a separation between what I know I should be doing subconsciously with what I'm actually doing. And then I think that's where a lot of the anxiety comes into play. So I've taken some time, like I took last week off because I had COVID, but I've also taken a couple of days off. And it's kind of been like that for a couple of years, as I've been grieving, but also just not having that desire or the mental sharpness or whatever it is to just perform. Or like at the moment I can hardly concentrate on what I'm doing, and it's kind of like I just know that something has got to give, and I've got to change something or do something about it. So I've got a psychology session tomorrow, which should help me sort of work a few things out. I met with one of my friends today, and we talked about the situation, and she's been through a similar type of thing at work, and she was just explaining, what she had been through and some advice, which is very useful for me because with my current position, I'm seconded, and I'm kind of thinking if I'm going to continue the secondment, which technically ends in October, or if I'm going to go back to my previous position, even things like maybe only working 4 days a week, maybe taking a break, or just speaking to my manager more directly about what's causing me anxiety and what can alleviate it, or what can make my life at work better, and I guess ultimately more enjoyable. So even though I'm not quite well at the moment, mentally and physically, recovering from COVID, I find the mental side is really tough. It's like I've got this brain fog going on, but that's just on top of my, I guess, mental state in general over the past few weeks. But having the chat today and sort of coming up with ideas of how to approach it leaves me feeling optimistic, because I can't really, it's one of those things where you can't really just bury your head in the sand. Oh, sorry. Just got a phone call. Just one sec. Yeah, so it's one of those situations where you can't really just bury your head in the sand and hope things will get better. Like, there's got to be action taken. And that's why I know that ultimately I see the light at the end, and things will improve. So that wraps it up for today. Hopefully that was quite long-winded, and I think hopefully I encapsulated how I'm feeling at the moment. And I'll leave a question. I'm not too sure what the question will be, but I'll leave a question in the Spotify podcast. So there's a poll. The poll will be there about the hats, and there'll be a question. And also it's good for the algorithm if you follow me, if you like the podcast, if you respond to the different polls and that type of thing. But until then, I'll catch you on the next one.